I'm like an owl.
It's not supposed to be bone.
Pain doesn't mean damage.
Is this normal?
Movement's medicine. That's the best thing I've ever done.
I feel ready. Jayne, MSK has just turned 8 years old.
It has.
Yeah, that's mad.
It's wild. I know.
I don't suppose I knew how old it was at all, but I seen Connor had liked it, and it was 8 years. So
I know.
That's mad.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I remember one day it was just like a pipe dream. So I've been a sports massage therapist for 14 years now.
Oh wow.
I'm a bit like, how's like it been 14 years that I've been working as like a massage therapist? Never mind. Like the clinics survived for 8 years, especially through COVID and stuff like that. It's a bit mad, but yeah, it's good. I'm super proud of it. Super proud of where we're at. So
it's crazy. So you'd only been what, 3 years old before you went into COVID?
2017. Wow. We set up the clinic, and then 3 years in, it was like How did you get through that? Because I also we've talked to like PTs and that, how they got through it with like online classes and stuff. Like, how did you survive a very much in-person kind of service? So we're a close contact service, so we weren't allowed to work at all. We weren't allowed to open. Physios were allowed to do some stuff, but as sports massage therapists, because it's an unregulated industry, we weren't allowed to touch anyone.
No way.
So there was clients that I knew that I could give them like self stuff to do at home, but for us it was you're shut and that's it. Like at that point you didn't know like how long you were going to be shut for, if you would ever have a business to come back to, and then what you were going to be able to do when you came back. I was fortunate enough that I had been self-employed for long enough that I was eligible for income support. And the clinic was in a good place as well, so we did get some support through the council, which was good, to cover like rates and stuff like that. But it was just a weird time. I think initially I was like, oh yeah, I'll be shut for like 3 weeks and then we'll be back open. I'm just going to invest my time like catching up with stuff that I wasn't able to get done. So like I went like stripped all the website back, like built a new website and just did all the stuff that you can't do when it's open. And then just got a bit fed up with things.
Because it dragged on for quite a bit. Totally. Jesus.
So yeah, it's
that's
a bit mad.
insane. But still going strong. Yeah,
we've been in a good place for a while, which is good. Like, so after COVID, when would it been? About a year to 18 months after, we moved to bigger premises. And then that didn't go so well. So we were in there for just over a year before I was like, this is just too much for me to handle. I was in there all the time. I couldn't take a step back from it. So I ended up cutting our lease there and moved up to the space that we're in now. And just downsized and condensed everything. So that's when Ewan then moved to Carden Place and set up there. And do you know what? It's the best thing I've ever done. Step it back, and it's easier for me to control. It's easier for me to manage my time and just invest back in me as well. Which it's difficult when you're running everything to then
it's tricky to
not
step back from working
in
it rather than on
completely.
Absolutely.
But stripping it back was one of the best things I've ever done.
Sometimes bigger's not the right move.
I don't like managing people, so
no. That's why I started working by myself.
Away from that, it's been quite nice not having to manage everyone, and the team we've got just now, there's 4 of us. So it's a good little team that we've got. It's quite settled, so it's good.
It makes all the difference when you get the right people around you, doesn't it?
Completely. I know I can go on holiday or like take a weekend off
and it won't all fall apart.
Completely.
That's good,
it is good. It's a good place to be.
So I've not got experience at what your clients look like coming in, only my own experience, and we'll get to that as well because I want to talk about that. I feel I don't know if that's a one-off or it was unique to me, and I find it quite funny. I tell everybody about it that'll listen. So, but what do your typical clients look like, or if it's not a typical client, kind of range of
all shapes and sizes? We work with everyone. We've got young kids in sport, so like 11, 12-year-olds that are super intense with their training, that they don't necessarily have the recovery time, because kids are training like 6 days a week now for certain sports, so they don't have that recovery time, and they're not being taught certain things as well about like recovery and function and time off. We get like kids in right the way through to like elderly population with aches and pains through overuse, through underuse. It's such a mix, and then every other sport under the sun. It's quite a mix, which is good.
Yeah, underuse is one I touch on quite a lot with clients. Because I feel like the general consensus, especially if it's coming from an NHS background, it's don't move, rest it, stop doing everything, don't go to the gym.
Yeah.
When it's like, no.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Stop doing that.
Like movement's medicine, that's what we kind of preach.
Yeah, and so like I've got several people like niggles and pains and stuff. I'm right in saying like they should keep moving them, even if it's like a limited range.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it's only going to help, surely.
Like, I mean, if you break a bone, the best thing you want to do is immobilise it, but then the muscles around it are all going to waste. And atrophy kicks in pretty quickly when we stop using something.
Right.
In order for things to recover, like it used to be like the old RICE, like rest, ice compression, elevation. And that's kind of what they're still preaching in NHS, but it's moved on such a long way since then. So we're actually wanting to load tissues to encourage strength back through them and actually move them. Otherwise you end up worse off. So your recovery is delayed if we're just going to immobilise everything and stop using it. But people also then start to fear movement when they come back to it, because like 9 times out of 10 you see someone that's hurt their back and they'll start to move like totally different. I'm like, your back is safe. Like, you're not realising what you're doing when you are like, you can come into the gym and you can lift properly, but then putting their shoes on, they're so cautious about it because they've got that fear factor within them. And like, if you teach them how to move properly, it's like
kind of waiting for that pain, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But pain doesn't mean damage, so
that's it. Yeah, I find a lot of people are they're waiting for something bad to happen. It's never going to happen, but then they compensate so wildly in the opposite direction that they end up making themselves stiff. I think a lot of it's like a mindset thing. Like it's total mental limitations.
I think we find like a lot of people come into clinic and they've got an issue that maybe happened 10 years ago. Like, I hurt my back 10 years ago, but they've been functioning fine since, and then their back pain start to come back again. But it's that old injury. But I'm like, but you've been fine for 7 years. Like, it's not that problem. It's something new. It's not like this is always going to be the case. But they always cling on to certain things, and it's almost like if you give someone a label, that's what like they become, rather than you are someone with back pain, but you can manage this, and there's still things you can do. It's not that you have to go about and you've got back pain all the time. There's certain limitations.
What do you think like the limit in that pain is? Like, when will you tell somebody to stop? So
again, that's pain's so like perspective. It's such a personal thing, and everyone's going to have a different pain threshold depending on what they've experienced. Like, someone's maybe never hurt themselves before, and like a little bit of like soft tissue work, they could be like, that's the worst pain they've ever experienced. But then you could have someone that's been in like a super traumatic like car accident or anything like that, and has experienced so much more pain. So it's so subjective depending on the person. But I think it depends in terms of you've just got that inner like function to know when something's going to cause more damage than it should, I think.
Do you ever get people like you kind of catch or like, come on now, it's not that sore?
Do you know what, we get a lot of people in, they're like, how bad is my back? And I'm like, it's not that bad. Like, it's fine. And they're like, they're not in the worst pain in the world. Like, they're functioning day in, day out. Like, they can do all the things they want to do, but their back's incredibly painful. And again, it's if it's not impacting their daily activities, it's not impacting their sleep, it's not impacting like what they're doing day in, day out, then you're like, well, that's not actually like that limiting. So it can't be that bad. So it's more about what they tell you about it than like what they're saying about their pain. Because to them it might be the worst pain in the world, but subjectively, if it's not limiting what they're doing, then it can't be
it's
extreme.
not that terrible,
But then you get other people that walk in crippling pain, and they're just getting on with it because it's always been like that.
I find I'm somewhere in the middle of that. So like I'll deal with a lot of pain, but I know when it's not right. But at the same time, like, I could fall asleep with an elbow in my back.
Totally.
My calf, no, I can't do the calves, but my back. Maybe that's just Connor's elbows, isn't it?
Maybe not sharp enough.
No.
Not sharp enough.
Yeah, so that like let's talk about my visit, because I don't know if you could use
Gosh,
that as somewhat of a case study. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it was just about a year and a half. Yeah, something like that.
Because it was icy. Because I remember you'd.
That's right.
Bumped your car that morning.
Oh yeah, I'd crashed the car. That had nothing to do with this at all. If anything, probably helped that I was so rigid. But there was no possibility of moving. So I had kind of resigned myself to the fact that this is just my life now, which was so stupid. And I remember I'd seen you come in a few times, and somebody had mentioned it, and I was like, "Is this normal?" Like, no. So my range of motion was like completely limited. My head wouldn't turn at all. So I was full body movements. And I think side to side as well, it just wasn't shifting.
Yeah, there was like no flexion.
And then, so I'd come in to see you, and I remember you saying, I think it was up this like the side of my scapula, and you're like, you feel that? I'm like, yeah, like the bone, like it's not supposed to be bone.
Like that's muscle.
What had happened there? Just got so tight with limited range that it just wasn't moving at all.
Your left scap had just like gone into spasm basically.
Really?
It was not wanting to move.
That's mad.
Yeah.
And was that what was causing the rest, like the head movement and everything as well? Yeah, it was so tight.
You get like a protective kind of mechanism that'll kick in, which we then stop moving because we know it's going to be uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the brain's way of saying, "Oh, don't do this because it's sore."
Yeah. It's kind of like a stretch reflex type thing.
Completely. It's not going to cause further damage, but once it's in that spasm, again, it's like giving it a little bit of like, oh no, this is okay, like it can move. Yeah. And just that reassurance that no, you are safe to do these movements. It's not going to like cripple you for life. Yeah. Like, it's the little things that it's like, oh, I can do this again. But yeah, it just gone into a spasm.
That's my.
Because I can't remember what you've been doing, but you were doing something.
Yeah, and it got a little bit worse. Yeah, I think it was just the amount of training that I was doing for whatever comp I was coming close to. I think it was
pre-comp, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was like 4 weeks out or something. Yeah. And it was just really limiting. I was aware that it was getting more and more uncomfortable. But I mean, up until that point, it wasn't painful or anything. It was just like, I can't move at all.
Yeah, pretty much.
And it just went with it. But that's kind of a perfect example of not moving something because it's sore or kind of locked up. It just makes it worse, doesn't it?
Completely. There's always a knock-on effect.
And then we were in there 45 minutes, and I could move my head again. Like
I remember you being like, I'm like an owl.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that at all. But yeah, it was like complete movement now. It's absolutely fine. I've kept up mobility and everything since. Yeah. And then the other thing, you've done spinal manipulation as well, which was amazing, because I'm one of those people that watch chiropractic videos just for the sounds and the relief that they get. But
it's not what you see on TikTok.
No.
That's not what I do.
That's not. No. But that was amazing. It took like 2 seconds, and it was like the head rush that I got off it and everything was like phenomenal. Yeah. What's the difference between that and like soft tissue?
So they go hand in hand. Yeah. So spinal manipulation is like a lot of what your osteopaths do. Right. So it works with the joint. So we're not moving things in or out of place. But we're basically restoring joint function, so improving the quality of the movement of the joint. Right. So a lot of the time, like in your spine, you've got little facet joints, which is where the vertebrae sit next to each other. Yeah. And sometimes they don't move as freely as they should. So if the muscle's gone into spasm, it then stops the joint moving. Or if the joint's not moving, it'll cause the muscle spasm. So it works hand in hand. So if we can work with the joint structures as well as the muscle tissue, it has like a greater effect. Yeah, okay. But you almost feel like sometimes, like when you take a deep breath in, you're like, I just can't get that expansion through my ribs. Sometimes it's just the facets that are locked. Right, okay. But it's the same as like cracking your knuckles, and it's the same thing. You're not moving the bones out of place, but we're basically stretching the joint capsule to a point where it then has to release the pressure. Okay, yeah.
That's quite interesting. So I can, it's particularly when I'm lying in bed at night, I can breathe in deep enough that it just pops. Yeah. I'm like, that feels really good. Like, I don't know if it's normal
because you're relaxed, the muscles will be in a relaxed position that you'll be able to get that expansion. Okay. Whereas usually if you're like quite stiff and things are are tight around it, you often need a little bit of soft tissue to then get the movement through. Like people will crack their backs and like bear hug, and it's the same kind of thing. It's just, but it's not as specific to what needs to go sometimes.
Yeah, I've yet to find somebody who can bear hug me, but
like even like cracking your neck and things like that. We get people that come in all the time. They're like, oh, I just can't, like I can crack it, but it's just not easy enough because they're not targeting the right joint that needs to actually mobilise.
Plus, you do it yourself. At least you're not going to be relaxed on one side.
Exactly.
And likely your own reflexes will stop you from going that far.
Completely. It's so sharp and like a high velocity kind of movement. Like it doesn't move far, but it's at such speed. Like the muscle doesn't have time to react as well, so the brain can't kick in. Which is why it works for a lot of people. Yeah,
so it's like the P and F stretching. So I do hamstrings quite a lot for people, and they're amazed. I was amazed when I first done it as well. And it's just tricking the nervous system. It's not got time to go from one side to the other. So the same thing. It's just not got time to stop it.
It doesn't have time to react.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's good fun.
So I've got. This just come to me just now, right? So I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and they were on about like spinal decompression.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it a little bit if I like hang off a rack or something, but like, this might be just completely in my head, right? But I swear I have to move the rear view mirror from morning to night. So if I get in the car in the morning, I need to put it back up. You are taller
in the morning.
That's
absolutely
true, right?
You are taller in the morning.
Is it affected by like your daily activities? Like if I'm lifting more weights or just general?
There's probably going to be some loading through it, especially like the weights that you are lifting. But the discs will dehydrate over the day as well, which will cause a little bit of like compression through the spine. So like the vertebrae are not going to change because they're bone, but in between them each disc will slightly dehydrate over the day.
So do get shorter for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like we all start with good posture in the morning, but your muscles are going to fatigue as well, so you will develop more of a natural like curves within the spine, which is normal, but you're then having to hold yourself up more, which is why it feels more of an effort.
Oh wow!
But yeah, it's definitely a true thing.
That's cool. Yeah. I have to move my mirror every morning and evening. Like, that's unreal. So
it makes sense.
I mean, that for me, getting that treatment done was like, I was on cloud9 for like weeks after that. It was phenomenal.
Brilliant.
Do you get that a lot with clients where they just come out as just an improvement of quality of life?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like some of the patients that we work with, we're not going to change their pathology. So we work with a lot of people with like spinal conditions and spinal fusion and things like that, and we can't physically change what's going on to the spine, but it's pain management, and they're like, that's me, like reset again for the next 4 weeks or whatever it might be. So it's just little things like that. People do feel a lot better afterwards. But I mean, with like massage, sports massage, there's like, we call it like the feel good factor. Like you generally feel good. Like even like touch is one of the things that we miss a lot within our life. Like so little things like that, even if it's like human contact, it's like it can have like a feel good effect. It's random, but it works.
I never even thought about it, but it kind of leads me into like the psychology part of it as well. So like Connor and I was talking about this last week about dry needling, and that even if it doesn't necessarily do anything physiologically for people, the kind of
like
the effect, the placebo effect off of it is they're going to feel better because they're expecting to feel better, and they've had something's physical's been done. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's, psychologically, I guess that's gonna. Does that work the same for? So for me, understanding that's going to do that. Would that work the same for me or somebody in sports than it would for just kind of gen pop?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's insane.
There's so much to it. Like even that we've got people that come in like religiously before like competition or whatever it might be, and they're like, I need to come in on that day because that's what I've always done. And it's even little things like that. If it's not within their structure and their routine, if something's off, it's going to impact like how they compete. But they could come in a day later and they'd still be fine. But
yeah, just kind of part of the ritual kind of thing. Yeah,
completely.
Yeah, I feel that's what I've got now with seeing Connor.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not broken, it's still something I want to get done, because then I feel ready. That's like I've checked all the boxes.
Totally.
So I mean, ritual's done.
You know you're in the best shape then.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if there is anything actually wrong with me, then he'll pick up on it. You know what I mean?
Which is always a bonus. Like,
yeah,
we do get people that come in like monthly, 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it might be, and they're like, I'm not sore, but I just need I need to come in and get like an MOT almost.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I didn't realise how tight I was into that area, because it's not impacting what they're doing, but if they left it, then it would start to impact it. So it's quite a good way to manage it.
I think a lot of people should go in and get it. Like I was one that didn't really I don't need to do it. I'll just suffer or just go on about my life. Do you know what I mean? And then it took me ages to be convinced, and then I'm like, yeah, okay, the neck thing's definitely. And then I come in, and now I wouldn't have without it. Like it's definitely a massive part of training and recovery. You
manage, don't you?
Yeah, it's just unreal. Yeah, and it would have been. It probably wasn't even just that year. It would have been years leading up to it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, and just kind of got on with it. So
I think you're not always aware of how your body's moving and the quality of movement and things like that. Because it can be such a gradual thing, we don't notice it. So when you look back, you're like, oh, I was able to move like that, and now I'm not. What's happened? A lot of people are like, oh, it's just age, but. Yeah. It's lack of maintenance. If your car was not looked after for 3 years, then of course there's going to be things wrong, because we're using it all the time, but we don't really treat our bodies the same way.
Yeah, it's funny that. Yeah, just kind of accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
It's something I feel everybody should get done, and I try and sway all my clients to get in and get seen, even if it's not, because from a PT point of view, I can see why people are moving, they're not moving the way that they should do, and I can manipulate some things and stuff that I've learned from you guys on how to move in that, but really I've not got the knowledge of what's actually happening inside, how to fix it long term.
I think that's a combination though, soft tissue work's always going to be temporary.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people come to us and they're like, I need you to fix me. And I'm like, well, I've got 45 minutes to do some soft tissue work. What are you going to do out with? Yeah. And a lot of it is strength-based stuff that we encourage them to do. And they're always like, oh, but I don't have time for this, I don't have time for that. But they're just being lazy. Yeah,
and what's the end goal? You're gonna just keep getting fixed every few weeks.
Exactly, you know what I mean? Which is great for my bank balance, but ethically it doesn't always sit the best with me. And I think if we've given people the information to be like, okay, well, you can make an informed choice. Yeah. But there are people that we see, and I'm like, no, you need to go and see Ewan or Connor or whoever. Yeah.
But deeper stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that can highlight it as well, though. Can it not? If you're going to get stuff done with yourself, soft tissue stuff, and then how many times do you see other issues underlying from that, and you have to refer further on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's probably a really good starting place. Do you know what I mean? And even if it's not, you don't need to get referred anywhere else or going any further. Like you say, just getting kind of rechecked, and the feel good thing. It's definitely better to keep it. It does work,
and there's certain things we call them red flags and screening processes and things like that, where it's not safe for us to work on something. And there is underlying pathology that they maybe need to see their GP or physio or whoever it might be. But a lot of the time, people don't want to book an appointment with their GP because they can't get an appointment. They don't want to see physio because they just expect to get a sheet of exercises. Or wait 9 months for a physio appointment through NHS. Yeah. But if we can encourage them that there are other health professionals out there that are reputable physios, and I'm like, well, save your money, go and spend it with someone else instead than me rubbing you for a little bit and you feel a little bit better for a few days, and then it's going to lead you back to where you were. I'd rather someone gets what they need than take their money for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, you want to improve people's life, and that's with the strength thing as well. Coming back to that, so that's just the same as not moving, isn't it? So if you're stronger, like the musculature stronger around joints and everything, that's surely going to be better, isn't it? And like soon, like the posture degrading over a day, like I don't know what my excuse is, but you know, that should be. I could be even shorter if it wasn't as strong.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that would be more like the heavier you are as well? Would that have more impact? Yeah,
massively.
Because obviously I've quite a bit of upper body mass, like that would compress quite a bit surely, and especially if I wasn't doing strength training and like. If
you're not keeping things in that like functioning movement, then it is going to have an impact. But I think if like mass is so different, like if you're strong, like your body's developed to like carry that, whereas if it's like obesity, then it's totally different. There's a huge like topic with that as well, because there's so much excess weight and tear, but if you're actually using your body in the right way, then it's going to have less of a detrimental effect.
It's going to be healthier than an alternative, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So strength training, get fixed. And then if it's something deeper, go you in.
Absolutely.
Full circle.
Yeah, completely. It goes hand in hand. It works well. It does work well.
No, that's
which is good.
Do you do dry needling as well? Do you? Yeah. So what's its official name? Is that?
So it depends what country you're in.
Okay.
So in the UK, there's no legislation as to terminology. So if in some countries, if you've gone to university, then you can say you're an acupuncturist.
Oh, okay.
If there's no legislation, then it's dry needling. So it depends like what you've done and where you've trained, basically.
So what's the difference? Like you just have better insurance?
Pretty much.
That's all I'm hearing.
So because we can't go to the university in the UK and like do acupuncture, then we can use either term. So we could say it's like medical acupuncture or dry needling, which is the same thing. But like in other countries, especially the States, then it's like no, unless you've done a degree qualification, you cannot use the term acupuncture.
Oh wow.
But
what's the difference between like
the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine?
Yeah, and just because they just put it and leave it, don't they?
Yeah, so they tend to work with energy points and meridians of the body. It works for people. How it works, I've got no idea. But I mean, they'll be like, right, I'm going to needle gallbladder 32 and we'll stop you smoking. What the hell? Like, I've got no idea what you've just said. But of what, like in terms of dry needling and medical acupuncture, we're working with the tight spots within the muscles. If we can stimulate that to relax it, then it works
makes
really
more
well.
sense than the woo-woo stuff.
Completely, absolutely. But it works. It works for a lot of people. So.
Yeah, it works for me like amazingly. Like anytime I get it done, it's like wow, like the release straight away is phenomenal. And then DOMs for a couple of days, but it gets better even a few days after it. Yeah, it's definitely worth it for me.
I know you've had it done, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it depends where you get it done as well.
Have you had the electro done yet?
Not yet, no. I want to ask Connor to get that done.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good for things like joint pain, like arthritis and things like that, because you can basically like electro someone through a knee joint. It's going to stimulate certain frequencies, which will release certain endorphins, which is where it comes from.
So it's not just about the contraction.
No. So certain things we will like basically cross through the joint and stimulate the joint that way.
Oh wow.
So it works really well.
Yeah, I want to get that done. Yeah, so I actually don't have any joint pain like at all.
Yeah.
Like, and I used to like knees were really bad. But since since I've seen Ewan about when he does all the like testing. The MOT, the testing and that, and then correcting what was wrong, like imbalances and that through that, like knees are absolutely fine. And it was before, it was like I couldn't even touch my patella tendon, and it was really sore.
Irritated.
And loading through it, any like close-legged squats, anything like that, like knees over toes, that was just a no-go.
Not happy.
But now, like, absolutely fine all the time, and it's just from strengthening up quads is basically what it came down to.
You needed to work on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So then, it's mostly just my back that gets sorted now, because it's everything strongman's like front loaded. It's all posterior chain stuff it does. So like, I mean, I was competing on Saturday and I can feel every muscle in my back right now.
It's a good feeling
but
though, isn't it?
It is a good feeling, yeah. I don't feel completely crippled after this, and I just know that I've worked on
It's not a broken feeling either.
No,
like, again, you know that like
nice.
they've worked to their like capacity, but they're not like damaged.
Yeah. I find it quite a nice feeling. Like, I know a lot of people cry about DOMs and things, but I actually quite like the DOMs. I don't know if that's a stage that you get to that you eventually crave it. There must be like some kind of like hormonal wise you crave that feeling, but the muscle soreness, I actually quite enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And there's always something sore. Do you know what I mean? If I like squeezing, so like if I've got sore quads, like just
that
contracting
feeling,
them, it feels really good. And you're like, whoa, it's a bit spicy, but it's nice.
It's a good feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I know what you mean. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think it gets bad if you're starting to crave that after every workout though.
Yeah. I mean, there's some workouts doing like there's nothing. Some are doing them like, oh man, that was too much.
Sometimes when you don't expect it, you're like, whoa.
I think, that's 2 days later.
Yeah.
It's usually the legs. I think you get to a point, so for me, like the DOMs are kind of always there at some level, not a whole lot. Some days worse than others. Depends what like how my sleep's been and stuff as well. If my nutrition's been on point, recovery, what I've done.
Nutrition makes a big difference to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's usually whenever I've changed an exercise or done something off plan or started a new program, that's when I get my DOMs.
Adaptation
but then it goes away after like a week, even though
it's just the body's just not used to it.
Yeah, even though I'm progressing up the weights and stuff, the DOMs get like less and less, which is I think the way it should be.
Definitely.
Yeah, I need to take a lot of clients through that first phase of like you're going to be sore tomorrow, and it's like the first week they're like, oh my god, I couldn't sit on the toilet,
aren't they?
But then you get past
easier.
it and it's you get more conditioned to it.
Exactly. But yeah, the more you move as well, I think the easier the day gets.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So a lot of my clients, all I prescribe for them is walking. Go walk.
Absolutely.
That's the best relief I've ever had off a lower back, particularly. Is just walking, because it's a really difficult bit to stretch, and there's nothing really there to massage. It's all very thin muscle. Even if you do, it doesn't really help that much anyway. It certainly doesn't when I do it. But walking, just walking with purpose, not just sauntering about. Walking with purpose, 20-25 minutes.
Just gets it moving.
Yeah.
Gets blood flowing. Like there's so much to it.
I had the first time I'd done that, and it wasn't even training so much. It was literally I'd put on a lot of weight really fast. Thought it was the right thing to do at the time. It worked for what I was wanting it.
Fair.
Ultimately, wasn't the right thing to do. But I'd put on so much weight. It was basically I'd put on a 30 kilo vest on the front, and my lower back was killing. And I went for a walk. I think it was like the second time we went out, 20-25 minutes. And it went like cold and numb, and then all the feeling come back in it, and it was amazing. It was the best feeling ever. So I prescribe walking to everyone.
It's the best thing you can do, because you can I mean, most of the population can go out for a walk. Yeah, there's no excuse.
It's so accessible. Exactly. And we've even got a walking pad in the house, and we're quite active, and we go out a lot. Like certainly, I'm in the gym all day. Danny's sometimes stuck in the house with the kids and that, so we walk a pad in the living room. It's super easy. Get the kids on it as well.
Absolutely, why not? Carry them out.
If only.
It does make a big difference.
They're not that expensive either. I've had a few clients get them, like, you can get them quite cheap, you can get more expensive ones, but
for what you need, it's fine, isn't
it?
And
it means in the winter and that as well. You don't necessarily have to go out, But getting out is probably the best. New fresh air and stuff as well.
Completely. A bit of vitamin D.
Well now the sun's out. How good did that feel this morning?
Ace, is it?
Yeah. Could still do with being a bit warmer.
Definitely solar powered. I'm like, thrive off the sun.
That's a good way of putting it, good. Oh, thank you for coming in.
No bother at all.
It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.